Good morning and welcome to ASI Radio, my last show.
This
of
is it?
7 years. This is my last show.
You never
So
have
we're-
to do it again?
No, we're going out with a bang, not a whimper.
Oh,
Hence the
boy.
reason we're going to be talking about marijuana today on the show. But first, before that, well, I'm joined by Jake Krolick, our creative director from our marketing department. Hi, Jakey.
Hi, Belle. What's happening?
Nothing much. And at the head of the table, we have our friend Kathleen Fitzgerald, who may or may not speak. We're just going to let her chime in if she wants to. Oh, she's my crazy cat friend. She's
That was
Jackson's mom.
great.
Jackson the Tuxedo Cat's mom. We have Vinnie Driscoll, for some inexplicable reason, sitting in a terry robe. And Lauren, who's in her purple blankie. She looks like Grimace. Hi, guys.
Oh,
So with us
Grimace.
today on the show, this is Marki Lemons-Rhyal, who's a really, really great speaker. Jake, have you ever seen her speak at our ASI
I
shows?
haven't, but
She's
I will.
fantastic. She's one of our top-rated speakers.
Love it.
She's a fifth-generation entrepreneur with over 20 years of marketing experience, and really her forte is social media marketing.
Very cool.
Which is interesting for this show because you're very pro social media. You've given classes on social media. You're
Sure.
more adept at it than I am. Whereas I'm kind of the
Kind of.
anti-social media person. But I've seen Marki speak, and I respect her topic. So I look forward to hearing what she's got to say. Hi, Marki.
Hey, how are you today?
We're good. Thanks. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I thank you for having me.
So what would you say, Marki? I don't know if you heard our little intro here. Jake's much more amenable to social media and has used it to his advantage much more so than me. So I'm the one who's a little trepidatious about kind of
Michelle, you
dipping
don't have
my
a
toe.
Facebook page.
I do not have a Facebook nor a LinkedIn page.
What?
I know. Marki's having a heart attack.
No?
No, you know what? I'm like the little old lady on the commercial. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
Well, maybe I'm hoping, Marki, that after our conversation here, you can make me a convert. So Jake and I have
Yes.
some social media questions for you, and we're going to start with Jake.
Yeah, good morning,
Okay.
Marky. So I'm going to start by asking you, could you go over maybe 3 quick things that a distributor should do every morning when they get onto social media to get their presence and their company's message out there?
Well, the very first thing, before they even hop on, they need a plan of action, and they need to talk about what consumers are searching for. So I like to start with either Google Alerts or Feedly, where every day I'm being updated on the hottest trends, what happened while I was sleeping. So before I get onto social media in the morning, I already have my talking points, and I want to educate consumers, and I want to talk the way that they search the internet. So that's going to be number one. And then I'm going to ask a question or throw out a tidbit of information that will help them. And throughout the course of the day, I'm going to come back and engage and re-engage that content consistently again, and maybe share a different viewpoint of how they might have utilized maybe pens in the industry or T-shirts in the industry. But I always want to curate great content to share with others.
So Google Alerts or Feedly, asking questions, and then sharing great content.
Yes.
Cool. Michelle, what about you? You have a question?
I do. So, Marki, of course, I'm not on them, but I am familiar with Instagram and Pinterest. How can distributors use those platforms to kind of reach prospects and connect with clients? Because I know they're both visually based platforms, correct?
Oh, yes, they are visually based platforms. Instagram right now is one of the fastest growing social networks, and people love visuals. As a distributor, what I would think about is showing behind the scenes. How is it that we develop your orders, the difference in maybe colors or textures? And so I want you to see behind the scenes operation. I want you to see before and afters. I want you to see side by side the difference in a font and what that might mean to your overall order.
Oh, that's great.
And so as a distributor, I'm going to bring you into my office. And I've gone to some distributors' offices where, they house 4,000 catalogs, just showing the difference before and after, utilizing something like PixArt, which is a photo collage, and I can put, 15 photos into one photo. I might show a process, or I might do a before and after. And
Gotcha.
then share that picture to Pinterest or I can even share it to LinkedIn, and I'll tell you how to do that a little later.
Okay.
Nice. That's cool. So, what do you do to measure a customer satisfaction, or maybe get some sort of ROI from social media marketing?
Because that's the big question, isn't it?
tricky.
A lot of people want to know, they want quantifiable kind of measurements. And is that possible to do on social media?
Oh, yes. It's most definitely easy to do utilizing social media, talking about conversions and things of that nature. I utilize a tool called Hootsuite, and Hootsuite has analytics built behind it. It is telling me how people are engaging with my content. I know for a fact that on my Facebook personal page, people really don't want to hear about business. My best engagement comes from things of a personal nature. Whereas on my Facebook business page, they do engage with the business. And so we want to use the right tool based on the messaging, but it's all about analytics. And at the end of the day, we want to drive sales. And if we're not driving sales, then it's not a beneficial tool.
Marki, what's your clout score? I recently came in contact with a clout score. What is that, and what's yours?
Mine varies from 67 to 73.
Oh, that's good, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and I don't blog consistently, and so if I blogged a little more, which I will be doing, I want to get that score to about an 80.
And what is
Wow.
the highest it can be?
100.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mine's a 40, by the way, just let you guys know.
Ah!
That's pretty good for not doing anything.
And
Really.
Excellent.
What does that show, though, that you do? Does that show that people are engaging with you, or it shows the multiple platforms that you are on?
It's a combination of both. So you can
Okay.
pull in all of the different platforms and measure how people engage with you, which is, I used Clout to figure out that on my personal Facebook page, people really don't want to hear about business.
Gotcha.
And that's why I stopped talking about it.
Gotcha. Now, Marki, a lot of companies have had to kind of come to grips with the fact that their clients, their prospects, can comment in real time about, problems that they've had with the company, their perception of the company, things they may not like. So they have to constantly be on guard about what people are saying about their company. What kind of advice would you give to companies to kind of create a social media policy? Should companies have policies? How quickly do you think they should respond to criticism online?
Well, the first thing is all companies need a social media policy,
Okay.
period, whether it's a part of your overall policy or a separate policy. And that's because there are more mobile devices on planet Earth than there are people, and 9 times out of 10, you have some type of social media mobile app on your phone. One thing, people are going to talk about you whether you use social media or not. That's
Ugh.
where they're going to go and complain.
Much to my
So
chagrin.
you want to be there because you want to be clear what they're saying about you, so then you can implement a policy in order to show that you have customer service skills. And so a lot of companies have taken their customer service to social media because they know that if there's a long lag time or they don't respond in an adequate amount of time, that people are going to complain, okay? With that being said, I'm going to say that bigger companies should be responding in probably 30 minutes to under 3 hours. Smaller companies need to know what's going on, and that's where Google Alerts comes in again. You want to set up an alert for your company name, for your employees' names, for your products' names, especially if they're trademark or service marks. And anytime anyone's on the Internet talking about them, you will be alerted. And then within 24 hours, if you're a smaller company, you need to address the issue. Is it a real issue? Take that as a learning experience. Maybe you need to implement some new policies and procedures on how your customer service department is handling complaints. And so I would leverage that to grow my company, but also to let people know that I am engaging and I am listening.
Let me give you this scenario, Marki, because this happened to me recently, and Jake
US
was the one.
Airways?
Yep, Jake was the
Yeah.
one who suggested it. So I had some issues with US Airways. He said, "Why don't you post something now?" I am on Twitter, Marki, so I hope that allays some of your concerns about me. But I posted a comment on Twitter to US Air, and they responded, and I think it was a form response because they said, "We're so sorry to hear you're having problems. Please call our 800 number."
Boo.
What do you think of that kind of way to handle a
I
a
think
problem?
a company of that magnitude needs to have a dedicated person who could probably tailor something a little more to your needs. And so I believe the bigger the company, they need to have dedicated staff to oversee that. The smaller the company, then of course you're wearing multiple hats,
Sure.
and so you're not going. You might have a canned response, but I believe that they could have asked more questions and then directed you, as opposed to just directing you. And if you probably would have sat there and watched their responses throughout the course of the day, everyone gets the same response. It needs to be a little bit more tailored for a company of that size.
I agree. That for sure would have taken the sting out a little bit.
Yeah.
Jake, you had a question about actual buying?
Yeah, I
online?
do. So when you use social media, are there some tips you can give to how you compel prospects that you meet only online to buy from you?
Well, one, a call to action, and then two, I've been playing with some new tools. The call to action, and you have to put them into some type of campaign, because we know that a lot of people are definitely going to incubate. And if you're not consistently following up with them, you will potentially lose them. So I don't think that they're going to instantly buy. That's why we need to have some type of customer relationship management system set up that when they show that interest, we're giving them some great content, and ASI has some wonderful infographics on the value of utilizing promotional products. And so we want to show distributors how to repurpose that content and get people into some type of customer relationship management system and follow up.
Good tip.
That's great. Marki, so can you tell us what new platforms are there? What's the new emerging super cool hip platform?
Well, if I was a distributor, right, and I love distributors, I would probably utilize Evernote to set up a folder for every last one of my clients, and then as I'm seeing great content on the internet, I would drop it in their into their folder and alert them. But I have fallen in love with If This Then That, IFTTT.com.
What is that?
And they call it a recipe site, but it's actually social media hacks, and I'll give you an example. When utilizing Instagram, I can push my photos directly over to Twitter, but what you see is a link. Well, if I use If This Then That, my Instagram photos display as a native photo on Twitter. So instead of having the link, you get the full photo. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, all of my LinkedIn connections, once they connect, their first name, last name, job title, and company they work for is automatically sent to Google Drive in an Excel spreadsheet. And so it's things that cut a few seconds here and there off of your time, but it's automatic.
That's great. Well, thank you.
Yeah, If This Then That.
Perfect.
Very cool. I've got another question. I'm going to change this one up. There's so many different types of social media out there. Should everyone be using all of them? Is there a better fit for certain people? Is there a way that people should be able to decipher what they should use?
It isn't one size fits all. I think that I talked to a gentleman this morning, and he does a lot of business with nightclubs, and LinkedIn probably would not be his best return on investment
Sure.
for that type of business. And so when we're looking at people in the promotional products industry, I definitely believe that each organization could use all of the tools, but if I'm really trying to connect with Director of Human Resources, someone who orders what I have, then I'm going to use LinkedIn. And I'm going to make sure that I work on developing business and proposals, whereas on Instagram, I'm going to show the photo of the proposal, and maybe we've done some color changes, and we want to compare would yellow or green work better. That would be the example. And so it isn't one size fits all. I believe that you should start with one channel, maximize its potential, and then move to the next channel, because what you don't want to do is have a bunch of channels you don't use, because it doesn't speak good of your brand.
Maybe you can keep going through. I like how you broke down the kind of businesses that you were dealing with LinkedIn, and then you kind of went over to Instagram. What about for Facebook or for Pinterest or for Twitter? What type of businesses might you use to go to work on those social medias?
Well, what I like is a concept called COPE, Create Once, Post Everywhere. And so because we're such a visual society, I am really utilizing Instagram to post to 6 different social networking sites. So I'm sharing that photo with Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Foursquare, and Flickr. And I know that ASI loves Flickr. Well, that is because Flickr has the best search engine optimization of any of the photo sharing sites. And so I now share instantly with those, but then on my mobile device, I also have the Pinterest app, so I'm loading that same photo to Pinterest, and I use If This Then That, and if it's my business account, I also share that photo to LinkedIn. And so for me, what you would do is kind of sample them and see which one you get the most engagement on, and then invest more energy there.
Cool.
That's great.
That is great.
Marki, thank you so much for your time. You're clearly an expert on this topic. And when are you speaking for us next at an ASI show?
Oh, I get to come to New York, and so I am elated. As ASI is always high energy, and I learn something every time I'm hanging out with my promotional product family. And so I will see you in New York.
That's wonderful. Well, Jake and I will both be there.
Definitely.
And we will be sure to stop into your class. As I said, it's one of our most highly ranked classes that we offer. So thank you so much for your time, Marki.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
Marki.
you. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
She's awesome. I like her energy.
Hey, Hugh Hefner, what'd you think?
In his robe. Our Facebook, Finney Driscoll down there. I like, so just repeat that. It's if, then, what is that?
If
Jake?
this, then that.
Did you guys know about that?
Yeah,
Vinny
sure.
did? Okay.
Yeah, basically you can set it up to do a lot of easy tasks. Like if you do something here, then it will do something for you here. It's like a programming. Think of it as a basic programming tool, except you don't have to do the programming. You just say, if you take this action, then it takes this action for you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very cool. I would look into it if you don't know about it already.
Well,
Actually,
I think
you would probably like
her
it.
advice is great, I think. So for those of you who are involved or want to be more in social media, she's definitely the one to follow. So we're going to move on to our favorite topic of the day. So who knows what goes on now in Colorado, Washington State, and the District of Columbia? Am I missing?
No, District of Columbia isn't quite what Washington State and Colorado are.
Am I missing it? Isn't there another
There are
one?
23 states.
Alaska, the freak state, Alaska. Yeah.
23 states, though, have already started to take action.
Okay, hands up. Who knows what we're talking about?
I have no idea.
Legalize marijuana. Yay! So we're discussing this because I've started to get questions from distributor friends of mine who are looking to sell into this, no pun intended, growing market. And it is. If you look at the economies of the states that have legalized marijuana, they're raking it in. So for the dispensaries and for the bakeries that sell marijuana edibles, they're asking, what kind of promotions can they do? What are the legalities of it? How do you kind of capitalize on this growing market as far as creating promotions? Let's just say, hypothetically, Jake, you and I walk into a dispensary. Why would we? Who knows? Kathleen's with us. Why?
I clearly
We don't know.
wouldn't.
So we're there in a dispensary. Are they able to give us promotional products as giveaways?
Inside the dispensary, yes.
What are the rules and regulations
So
there?
you have to think about this, though. If you think about the rules that govern alcohol and tobacco, and I'm saying this loosely because the laws currently don't limit what these 23 states that have some sort of legality can to sell somewhere marijuana.
So the law hasn't quite caught up.
It hasn't quite caught up. It's going to catch up in the next year because it took a little while if you think about alcohol and tobacco, we still saw, when I was a kid, I still saw tobacco ads in magazines everywhere. And I still saw, promotional products around. But basically, you can't hand out a promotional product to someone who is under 21 that has something that they can't legally purchase.
Well, in fact, as you told me, you cannot, if you're under the age of 21, walk into a dispensary.
No, you cannot, under the age of 21, walk into a dispensary. It works just like a bar, so that you have to be of a legal age to walk in.
So, and what about the types of products?
So let's
you're obviously
think
not going to do, things that the children would like.
Yeah, what we should do is before we keep going, let me share a few stats because it's interesting. This article kind of opened up my eyes to seeing People are starting to talk about this. This is becoming huge business. I mean, Colorado in the last year is basically able to fund their whole school system on the revenue that's generated. But it's still not federally legal, so you have a lot of loopholes that you're trying to go through, and they're dealing in cash, and they're not able to work with banks, and so things are still a little shaky. But for the state of marijuana and the promotional product industry, 65% of companies that deal with imprinted promotional products have never done anything before for a medical marijuana company. 75% have never actually worked with a company that has even sold that. 85% would say yes to working with the company.
Because they're smart, they know it's a growing market.
And this is saying, let's see, what's another good fact? Do companies in the promotional product industry have an official policy for imprinting medical marijuana products? 75% say no. So it's really it's something that we haven't started to really think about, but we're open to it. As an industry, it sounds like we're really open to it. Some of the
We're going to do an article soon about it in one of our magazines, because I think it's important for people to know that, perhaps they're not aware that it's right now that it's regulated like an alcohol or a tobacco product, where you can't, as you explained to me earlier, you can't just, if I'm sitting on a beach, you can't get a promotional product that has to do with alcohol or tobacco, which I really didn't think about. You have to be in an establishment, like a bar, where you can get things like that.
Brings to the next point. So how do we get and how do we recommend to a dispensary what to do with the product? Well, definitely having products in their actual shop is a great thing to have. And when someone walks in the door, you can legally give it to them because they were legally allowed in the door. So anything that you want to give out.
So like logoed little bags to carry your stuff?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that some of the things that are recommended on here, and I would agree with some of this. Like a lot of the medical marijuana clinics and dispensaries the idea is dealing in health. So you're dealing with wellness. You're trying to help someone who has an illness or something. So giving out things like hand sanitizer, lip balm, sunscreen, tissue packs. These are really good health-based giveaways. Also, though, you can give out, there's a whole other side of this, is with this industry are coming trade shows. Big trade shows with big money are starting to pop up.
That's a great point.
And
so just like any other exhibitor, they're going to need trade show giveaways.
They're going to need lanyards, badge holders, maybe pens, whatever you're thinking of there. But it's easy to get anything logoed. And if you start to dig into it, you may want to start to think about actual devices or papers or, I don't know, maybe pipes. These are things that I know it's happening in Europe, and it can definitely happen here. If you can put a logo on it, it'll work. But don't shy away from classic wearables. Hats and T-shirts are a big deal, and I would say that they're good. I would also, one of the things that I would say is be clever about it. When you're working with them, you don't have to put a pot leaf on something to make it a promotion for the marijuana industry. It could be a little bit more clever. So I think getting creative is a really good idea. I think that you'll find that a lot of people that consume that type of a substance would be more creative or thinking about things that are a little bit more clever.
So I would say to our listening audience that if you need any help or suggestions with the creativity involved with marijuana, to contact Jake at jkrolick@asicentral.com.
I'm happy to help.
So moving on to my very last topic on my very last show.
Wow.
4 things you should never say to a customer. Can I just tell you, I guess from working in this industry, my sense of good customer service is so fine-tuned. Like, I have very little tolerance for bad customer service.
That's a good thing.
So I'm going to say things to you guys, and you tell me how you would react to this. If you were dealing with a company and they said to you, "Can you call us back?" Kathleen's shaking her head no.
I mean, if they were having a fire or like an earthquake.
No. What if it was just clearly that they were busy maybe dealing with something else? And can you call us back? Not we'll call you back. Can you call us back?
No way.
I mean, I can't imagine it happening. Although U.S. Airways has kept me on hold for the last few weeks for 2 hours at
Why
a
is that
time.
acceptable, though? I mean, in this day and age, and by the way, I think the United States has by far better customer service than other areas of the globe. Europe's customer service is much more lackadaisical and
Sure.
slow than America. So I would say in the United States and Canada, we're very good in North America about customer service. I just don't think it's still where it needs to be.
Yeah. I don't think no one
Maybe it's
should
just
say,
my elevated expectations, though. I don't know.
no one should say call us back unless you're playing phone tag.
Well, no one should keep you on hold for more than like 10 minutes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I would agree.
How about, and I had this last week, and what started off as me being perfectly calm incensed me so bad, I actually threatened them to unleash my wrath, quote, on social media. Me, who has no wrath on social media, who has no presence on social media. I threatened the company with unleashing my wrath.
What'd they do?
They said this repeatedly. Well, our company policy is.
Oh, that just makes my blood boil.
It makes my blood boil because why are these people not empowered to help a customer on the phone?
I actually think it's a tactic that that businesses
You think
use
that to wear people down?
to wear people down because, again, U.S. Airways or Comcast, both are people that if I want to get transferred up to the director of the department or the manager in the department, I have to go up several stages before I get to someone who can actually make a decision. And you have to go.
So you've already wasted your time,
Oh, yeah.
by the way.
You
and
know
all this.
you're going to have to wait an hour on the phone and just say, I know it's not you that can help me. Please transfer me to the next person. I know it's not you that can help me. Please transfer me to the next person. And Comcast is great. After you call at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, you're going to be transferred overseas. And then you can get transferred after several switches of people back to the States. and once you hit at that time, you'll actually go back to Philadelphia to one of the call centers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, you just have to have the patience to deal with it.
Sure.
But bad customer service.
I agree. So the one where I threatened to unleash my wrath on social media, when that was at the point where I asked to be transferred to a manager, and the person I was dealing with was so annoyed with me, she practically hung up. Like she didn't even say, hold on. She just transferred me right over. So it's on voicemail. So I'm probably in a training session at this point. They are like using my voicemail where I'm threatening these people with the wrath of social media. The next one is, the example is, and this happens a lot with airlines, again, if they have to move your flight or cancel something, as a courtesy to you, Jake, your flight's been canceled, so we're going to rebook you for 2 days after the fact. How's that a courtesy?
Well, listen, flying back from Boston, my flight got canceled because the crew never showed up, and then they disappeared from the counter. I had to actually do my own standby on another flight. Everyone just disappeared, and I was like, I guess I'm out of luck.
I think that companies use the phrase as a courtesy to you because they think it takes the sting out of it.
Sure.
But I don't think it's a get out of jail free card to then
That's
do
like-
whatever you want to do.
They should just be saying, we're going to screw you, and now you're going here.
Yeah. So the lesson there is, watch your wording. Just because, you use words like I apologize. I'd rather get back to them personally.
Sure.
Why make them deal with more than one person?
If I can find out the answer, which is, 50% of the time I can figure out the answer, I'll either call them back or I'll ask them to hold, and I'll go and run to find out an answer.
You and I should do training for US Air and
We
Comcast.
should. Seriously.
Well, thank you guys for joining me on my very, very last show.
Woohoo!
Jakey and Kathleen, say one word.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you to Vinnie Driscoll for 7 years of putting up with me ranting about how much I hate social media. Lauren, thank you for the great sound effects as always. And we will be back next week with Kathy Houston for her last show.
Wow. Are you guys just all retiring?
Well, the show is not ending, but it'll be a new incarnation of the show. But I believe Kathy, Joe, and I, and probably Andy, are retiring. I
So
believe
who's
that
gonna be the new staff?
Melinda will stay on, and
Nice.
I think our Employee of the Year, Dave Vagnoni.
Nice. Dave is wonderful.
Dave is fantastic. Yeah, but I think
Cool.
myself, Joe, Andy, and Kathy are just gonna kind of
Fade
fade out,
into
fade to
existence?
black.
We're going to have to make a new backdrop.
Thank God, because I look like a trainee in that photo. Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.